So you're probably expecting me to review Doctor Who Time War Uncharted 2 Pursuit, but I'm going to be really pedantic and refer to it henceforth as Doctor Who Time War 7 Uncharted 2 Pursuit. I didn't choose the naming scheme, this was foisted upon me. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. TARDIS, and today from my hotel room while I'm away for work, we're going to be looking at the third instalment in the ongoing story arc, which involves the 8th Doctor, played by Paul McGann, travelling across the Time War with his great-grandson Alex, played by Sonny McGann, trying to unravel the ongoing mystery with Cass, played by Emma Campbell-Jones. Cass, you may remember from the Night of the Doctor 50th anniversary short. This is her third box set as a companion of the 8th Doctor during the Time War. And last year's box set, Uncharted 1 Reflections, ended with a cliffhanger where this mysterious agent in the Time War, Hieronyma Friend, had somehow managed to turn the Doctor's great-grandson Alex against him. Alex got swept up in a Garden of Eden metaphor, he bit into some forbidden fruit, turned against the Doctor, stole the TARDIS along with Cass, and has just gone on his own merry way, leaving the 8th Doctor with Hieronyma Friend. And as the title of this box set would indicate, Pursuit has the 8th Doctor and Friend trying to pursue his great-grandson. The 8th Doctor and Friend are using Friend's Kalinos ship and following Alex and Cass wherever they go in a quartet of stories. We have Spoil of War by Mark Wright, we have The Tale of Alex by Catherine Armitage, Seesaw by James Moran, and The First Forest by Tim Foley. Spoil of War has Alex and Cass landing by some stately home, and they find that they are expected guests here. They, along with a group of other aliens, are there to bid for a mysterious artifact which could help to turn the tide of the Time War. And they're greeted there by a valet called Dennison, played by Wanda Opolinska. She is surrounded by these under-butlers, which is a terrific idea, and it's up to Alex and Cass to figure out what they're bidding on and also try to outsmart a group of Sontarans, and it turns out that this story is a pseudo-sequel to an alternative version of the 4th Doctor story, The Invasion of Time, where the Sontarans were successful in taking over Gallifrey, and they have become the new Lords of Time.
Good evening, Mr. Campbell. Miss Fermazzi.
Ah, Dennison. There you are. Always popping up from nowhere.
I endeavour to provide discreet and efficient service. I'm pleased to see you are punctual.
Wouldn't want to keep you waiting.
Of course.
What are you doing?
I've had enough of playing nice.
Good evening, Mr. Campbell. Are you quite rested?
Yes, thank you.
Very good, sir. If you'd care to follow me. Dinner will be served presently.
Greetings.
Hello.
May I present?
Overseer Hemara of the Morai, Observers Fane and Arya.
May I present Mr. Alex Campbell and Miss Cass Fermazzi?
Hi. Oh.
Please, our tendrils are a functional extension of Morai physiognomy, aiding communication and interfacing with our technology.
I think she wants you to shake it, Alex.
Yeah, right. Hello.
I really enjoyed Spoil of War. I liked the unfolding mysteries, the multiple mysteries where Alex and Cass are figuring out what they're bidding on, why they're expected there, what happened in this alternate timeline where the Sontarans effectively became the Time Lords. Dan Starkey is of course on hand to play all of the Sontarans, and he does a terrific job at that as usual. But the MVP of this story is Wanda Opolinska as Valet Dennison, and she is such a brilliant presence in this story as this really calm but very authoritative valet. There's just something about her voice and her cadence and presence. She's an incredibly compelling character. She's one of the Codicil, and one minor nitpick over these Time Lord Uncharted box sets, I don't know who the Codicil are. Are the Codicil a species? Are they a group of Time Lords? I don't know who they are, because the stories, to my knowledge, haven't really stopped to explain it yet. But I love the way Denison conducts business. I love her business speak. There's a really great recurring joke where she's thought to be killed, and then she turns up and everyone's like, oh, I thought you were dead. And then she says, oh, the Codicil reserve the right to die. It's like, what? In the behind-the-scenes interviews, Mark Wright says that he was recently watching Downton Abbey and the film Remains of the Day, starring Anthony Hopkins, and that has clearly influenced his work in this episode. It's a really great character. But Spoil of War also lays the groundwork for the rest of the box set, and all of the other writers are also carrying that torch, where Alex is rejecting his great-grandfather's legacy and even his name. He doesn't call the Doctor, or even his great-grandfather or family. He calls him the Old Man as a way to sort of delegitimize and try and dehumanize him. And there's this really great push and pull between Alex and Cass over the course of the box set, where Cass is almost like caught in the middle, where she can see both sides. She can see where Alex and the Doctor are coming from, and she's sort of caught in the middle here, and to try and navigate around this fractured relationship. But overall, Spoil of War is a really strong start to the box set. It may actually be my favourite story of the box set, and there's just some really wonderful little details and Easter eggs in there, like the difference in Time Lord terminology when it's the Sontarans who are wielding the power. Like, it's not the Eye of Harmony anymore, it's the Eye of Conflict. There's also a species in here called the Morai, which is a reference to a previous Mark Wright script from the Second Doctor adventures. All the while, the Doctor and Friend are trying to chase Alex and Cass through the time vortex. In the previous box set, Friend was wearing the faces and the voices of previous 8th Doctor companions, and in this box set, Friend is played by Nikki Wardley and also Lizzie Hopley, and these are pretty deep cuts from the 8th Doctor adventures from Big Finish, dating back around 20 years. Lizzie Hopley playing an alternative 8th Doctor companion from the Terra Firma story like nearly 20 years ago. These are real deep cuts, but thankfully you don't need to be too clued in on that to appreciate what's going on in the immediate story. Next up, we have The Tale of Alex by Catherine Armitage. Alex and Cass and the Doctor and Friend, they separately land on the planet Ig. Years ago, the 8th Doctor supposedly saved the world of Ig from a species called the Blight, and he did so by burning all of the crops. And the 8th Doctor's final act was giving the scientists on the world of Ig the capabilities to grow more food from the soil. However, it's been several years later and nothing has come from that, and now the people of Ig resent the Doctor. So Alex and Cass decide to use the opportunity to set things right, to try and make up from the Doctor's previous mistakes. All the while, the Doctor and Friend in a separate timeline are trying to also figure out what went wrong on the planet Ig, and also separately also try and make things right. But these two different timelines are starting to collide and mesh together, competing over dominance. This planet's fate has not been set yet, with the framing device of the story being told by a local bard called Tarzan, played by Sam Stafford. A bard who seems to somehow know how the story is going to end.
Coming through. Mind the loot.
Oh, dear. Him.
Excuse... Thank you. Hello. Hello. I am so excited to meet you.
This is Tarzan.
The Bard.
Hi, Tarsin the Bard. I'm Alex.
Oh, I know. Such a glorious name. Alex speaks of skies and experience with just a touch of grit. The name of a hero.
I'm no hero.
As the story unfolds, all shall be revealed.
Sure. Talking of stories, what's yours? I know your crops got destroyed, but couldn't you replant?
We wanted to, but the doctor gave all the seeds to the scientists 3 years ago. They locked them up in their labs, and we haven't seen them since.
But they know you're starving, right?
Of course. They just say be patient. They know best.
Sounds familiar. All right, tell me everything, from the start.
The Tale of Alex is a wonderfully inventive story that's ultimately about unreliable narrators. And I'm not just talking about Tarsin the Bard here, I'm talking about who, when it comes to the Doctor and Alex, has authority over this world's story, with that extending to the authority of how the people of Ig regard the Doctor and Alex and just the universe more broadly. It's a really fascinating metatextual commentary on the Doctor Who traditional format. Perhaps the Eighth Doctor is not the most reliable narrator when it comes to his relationship with Alex, and also vice versa. And once again, Cass is caught in the middle here, basically acting as a pawn for the Eighth Doctor to try and win Alex back over. It's a really strong commentary and almost like pseudo-criticism of Doctor Who's traditional format, where the Doctor just leaves at the end of the story and kind of hopes that everything works out. We've seen this before in stories like The Long Game from Series 1, but in The Tale of Alex, it has that follow-up where now the Doctor's great-grandson Alex, who is currently in a period of rebellion and resenting his great-grandfather, is able to essentially say, no, I'm not going to be like my great-grandfather. In fact, I'm going to be better. I'm going to fix his mistakes. And the trouble that gets him in this particular conflict, really fascinating stuff. And it kind of shows Alex's resolve and his inexperience as well, how far he's willing to go to fix these mistakes from his great-grandfather, but that desperation can come at a cost. It can make him short-sighted and also prone to mistakes that are made with the best of intentions. But yeah, the idea central to this story of these two competing timelines that overlap and mesh together, really fascinating idea, and I think that Catherine Armitage has done a brilliant job of structuring the story to make it cohesive and also putting the stakes of the story front and centre. This was a really engaging listen. I liked this a lot. Catherine Armitage is a really strong and reliable writer for Big Finish, but I think this is one of her best stories in a while. And of course, shout out to Sam Stafford, who does a brilliant job as the bard whose singing and storytelling the Eighth Doctor considers a form of torture. Paul McGann's really funny in these scenes. And also you've got actor Vanita Rishi playing Dr. Anisa Watt. She's playing Dr. Watt. There's such a great scene where they point that out. But yeah, this really compelling idea where you've got the Doctor as this Time Lord force of nature, you've got Alex who has got the TARDIS, and these two are just trying to brute force their own ideologies on the world of Ig. And the collateral damage that could come from that, really effective stuff. This was really strong. Next up, you've got Seesaw by James Moran, and this is probably the most standalone story of the box set. As in, you could probably just listen to this one and have a really effective time, whereas the other ones are kind of complemented with the themes and everything surrounding them. Cass and Alex receive a distress signal while on board the TARDIS, and they somehow slip through the time lock that's surrounding Earth, and they land in 1920s London. However, the city is entirely abandoned, and it seems like it was abandoned very recently, as in several seconds ago. The Doctor and friend follow Alex and Cass, and even though they land in the same place at the same time, they can't see each other. But what both parties can see and hear are these strange, ominous figures who are singing nursery rhymes, but they're singing the first part of nursery rhyme and are just repeating the first parts and the opener to these rhymes. But then bad things really start happening when our heroes feel compelled to finish the rhymes.
This time, this place, it's all wrong. The transmission subwave they used is from way, way in the future. The signal itself was old, sure, but nobody on Earth in this time period has access to that network. Nobody here could have got a signal to pierce through all of time and space to reach the TARDIS, deep in the vortex.
That's the other strange thing. Did you notice? The signal stopped as soon as we landed.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
Now it's completely silent. Not a single solitary sound in this whole place.
Okay, that is much creepier than just silence.
Yeah, no, I don't like this. I don't like it one little bit.
I can't tell where it's coming from. It feels like fingernails scraping against the inside of my skull.
Something's coming. Something big.
It's right above us. Move!
I can't see anything. I don't know where it's safe to go.
While the idea of these two simultaneous but separate time streams with Alex and Cass on one side and the Doctor and friend on the other, while that format might have been very difficult to edit and make cohesive in a visual storytelling medium like television, For audio, it's perfect. But if this had been a TV episode, this would have been an episode that would have generated so much discourse and would have generated so much attention. This would have been like a massive smash hit if it was a TV episode. You'd get so much buzz, you'd get so many complaints to Ofcom for terrifying the kids at home with these nursery rhymes. Oh, Philip Hinchcliffe would have been so proud. But yeah, Seesaw is genuinely sinister. It's very creepy. There's sort of like the childlike allusions to Are You My Mummy from Stephen Moffat's The Empty Child from 2005, and the imagery of this empty London calls to mind like 28 Days Later or Dead London from H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds. Really evocative images here. But while Seesaw is a really strong Doctor Who horror story effectively, it is also a very strong complement to The Tale of Alex, where the box set kind of reveals itself as this complex tale of Alex figuring out the person that he wants to be, or at least the person he wants to be beyond the shadow of being the Doctor's great-grandson, being away from the old man. He wants to right the Doctor's wrongs and he wants to do better of him. He's effectively in pursuit, of a better way. And that's such a compelling narrative through line, and I think that Sonny McGann, over the course of this box set, he rises to the occasion for the material. He does a very strong job of effectively carrying this box set. This is a Doctor Who Time War box set, but in these 4 stories, Alex is the main character and Cass is the companion. And Seesaw has the 8th Doctor effectively shadowing Alex and trying to figure out a way to still work together while they can't really communicate with each other properly. While this Time War story arc is far removed from Daleks, it still does have and incorporate these timey-wimey elements that you do expect from Gallifreyan Time War stories from Big Finish, and I think that it's all the better for it. Culminating in the 4th and final story of this box set, The First Forest by Tim Foley. Once again, we are in Garden of Eden metaphor territory, where Alex, Cass, the Doctor and Friend separately land on a place that's apparently the first forest in existence, a forest birthed from the Big Bang. However, Alex and Cass, they crash the TARDIS and Cass is then nowhere to be found and she's presumed dead. And all parties are now effectively stuck in this forest world, and the deeper they go in the forest, the more weird time dilation starts happening, so there's really no escape. But there's also some encroaching smoke or a potential encroaching fire on the horizon that is starting to surround them, which it turns out are the Sontarans closing in on the Doctor. But they're not the only Time Lords in the First Forest. They find Abydus, played by John Ram, an ancient legendary Time Lord who was Omega's right-hand man when it comes to creating time travel, and apparently he could breathe life into TARDISes. Some really cool Time Lord lore is given to us in this story, but the Doctor and Alex have to find a way out of the forest before the smoke can consume them, and Friend may be about to betray them.
Alex, help me chop some wood for the fire. I have just learned who your rescuer is. Abydus Elenar, the famous shipwright. More than that, he is the shipwright. They called him the father of travel.
Right. Some famous Time Lord.
One of the first. Sailed with Rassilon. He's built and rebuilt his ships in flight, learning how they weathered the vortex. Some said he breathed life into every sail. I've no idea what he's doing here. He died during the Civil War. There was no word of him ever.
I don't care, Doctor.
Well, perhaps not. I'd like to think Cass would. Great engineer like Abydus. She'd have loved to meet him. The system over there he's got collecting rainwater, look, she'd be all over that. And thinking about that helps me. It's what I've always done. Sometimes it's nice to stare at the world with the innocence of Katerina. Approach a problem with the brilliance of Adric, or keep fighting, like Lucy.
I don't know who they are.
Friends. Friends I lost. And before this war, such a loss was permanent, fixed. But now something's changed. Because this isn't the end for Cass.
With The First Forest, it works as an interesting companion piece to one of Tim Foley's last stories, Hooklight. Hooklight, this epic 12-part story which is effectively an adaptation of The Lord of the Rings but with Doctor Who characters. And with the First Forest, we have now a Tom Bombadil character with Abydus. But there's a few other residual ideas in Hooklight, like the idea of having to rebuild a TARDIS. I don't know if Hooklight came first or the First Forest did. Either way, there's some fun complementary ideas here. While the Time Lord lore is interesting, and I think that John Ram is brilliant as Abydus, this strange, playful Time Lord who may be a bit senile, maybe he knows more than he lets on, we don't really know for quite a while. And there's also a really strong comic relief Sontaran, a really polite Sontaran scientist called Sharon. I do think that the First Forest is kind of spinning its wheels a little bit. It kind of feels like a lot of really great ideas, but without an actual end goal in sight. Like, I don't really know where the Uncharted series of this Time War arc from Big Finish, I don't really know what the end game is here. I'm not really sure what we're pursuing here. Obviously, this box set is about the 8th Doctor and Friend pursuing Alex and Cass, but I mean sort of beyond that. What is the actual end game here? And aside from setting up some story points and a cliffhanger for next year's Time War Uncharted box set, I'm not really quite sure what we're doing here. Even when the Doctor and Alex do end up reuniting, it kind of feels like they resolve their tension and resolve their issues remarkably quickly. I kind of hope that moving forward there is some residual tension, there is some residual drama, otherwise it kind of feels like this whole pursuit arc kind of amounted to very little. I really hope that the First Forest is not the beginning and end of this part of the Doctor and Alex's relationship. That being said, the sort of timey-wimey ethereal nature and the atmosphere of the First Forest does a lot to carry it as an hour-long audio drama, but when all is said and done, it's kind of like, you know, what are we building to? What is the heart of this story? And I'm not really quite sure that there is one. It's kind of hard to review and analyse this story because give it a couple of years and we could look back on the First Forest as like an essential middle chapter that's setting up so much and playing with these storytelling mechanics behind the scenes or something. Or maybe we could look back and say, oh yeah, that was just a filler chapter. I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. It has Tim Foley's traditional strong characterization, and like I said, the Time Lord world building is really effective and compelling, and the idea of having to like rebuild the TARDIS, really great stuff there. Although, like I said, we sort of dealt with these themes and these ideas in Hooklight, and that was a much longer, bigger, broader story, so it feels more complete there. And when it comes to Cass's involvement and her role moving forward, I'm not quite sure what we're doing with this character now. She worked really well in the previous episodes as a go-between between the Doctor and Alex in some really interesting and compelling ways, but in the First Forest it kind of seems like we're now resetting her character for a different status quo. Like I said, without knowing what their plans are, without having listened to future box sets, it's kind of hard to gauge at this point. So my conclusion here is that the First Forest is a muddled ending to what is otherwise a really strong box set. Those first 3 stories, Spoil of War, The Tale of Alex and Seesaw, those are some terrific hours of audio. 3 very different, brilliant writers tackling ultimately the same ideas and the same themes, but in very different ways, and that was incredibly compelling to listen to. With the whole box set bolstered by really strong performances from the main cast, but also some really effective guest performances. Dan Starkey, of course, but also Sam Stafford, John Ram, Wanda Opolinska, really great guest performances over the course of this box set. But Time War Uncharted 2 Pursuit does end on a very ambiguous note, and I don't really know where we're going from here now. It is pretty definitively a middle chapter, and I kind of feel like moving forward it would end up being a disservice to these great stories if it was just, oh, the Doctor's found Alex, let's move on. I really want there to be some sort of fallout from these adventures, otherwise what was the point? And I think that these stories and also the performances from Paul McGann, Emma Campbell-Jones and also Sonny McGann, I feel like they deserve follow through. They're clearly very invested in these stories and this material, and I think it would just be rude and also a massive missed opportunity to not capitalize on that investment. But that's my review of Time War 7 Uncharted 2 Pursuit. We have Time War 8 Uncharted 3 coming out some point next year, and we'll see if that's able to pick up these threads. But folks, let me know what you folks think of the box set. If you've listened to it, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, it really helps me out. Sorry for the dark room in my hotel. Like I said, I've just finished a day of filming and it's very dark outside. I'm kind of working with the lights that I've got. But be sure to subscribe for more Big Finish reviews and, you know, subscribe to figure out if I lose my mind in this hotel room. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.